Live. We are here at a podcast. Stephen Maxted, your host, and we have Amy Rae Thompson. But we're talking about Amy Rae Maker
Yeah.
today on here, and yeah, we were just chatting. We should have pushed record maybe 10 seconds ago. We were having such a good chat, and I would have we'll try to replicate that in here while going with the flow. But Amy is. We actually met through agriculture. We took ag biz together at U of M, and now she is raising a young family and running. It sounds like well, she'll tell us more about her business, but she is a maker by definition on this brand here. And yeah, Amy, thanks for joining us on the A podcast today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. This is pretty cool. This is my first podcast, so
Right
looking
on,
forward
sweet.
to it.
Yeah, we gotta create that content for you to get the
I
good word
guess
out there that
I was,
you're making. So
yeah, I was telling my husband Kevin that I'm on a podcast today, and was like, this seems so surreal, so
oh,
cool.
that's
So
awesome.
let's blow it
That's
up.
great. Yeah. So let's start off with, so I mean we were like we chatted about this before, but like how did you get in here? Like what was the journey to get into, and you'll describe this better than I will, but the title of maker, and I know that you had started in leather, but you really described you're doing some other stuff now, but I know you worked in ag, and walk me through that journey there for the listener, to be like, how did you get here? Because I think a lot of people struggle with this and the startup thing. They're like, hey, is this a hobby? How, like, it starts off in many different ways and it evolves quickly, but walk us through how you got going here.
Yeah, for sure. I love the word maker because that's such a, I don't know, it's so cool. And I think it describes me very well because I've always been a maker. So, yeah, started out always being creative growing up and grew up on a farm. Agriculture is a huge part of my world and my life. So, went to ag and met my husband, and now we farm out in Dauphin area. Your typical ag love story, I guess. And yeah, so we've got two kids now, five, or it's not five, 6 and 4. And I was working in a couple different jobs within ag. And then once we had kids, we kind of decided like it's going to be we're going to raise them. I was going to stay home with them while they're young because that time is so short. And I'm really glad I did because it kind of led to me being able to tinker and figure out, this entrepreneurial journey. So yeah, I started out with leather work. I was making belts and wallets and things like that just out of my home um, while working part-time. And then once kids came along and we moved, I kind of ran out of space and time. It's hard to pound on leather and make a lot of noise while your kids are trying to nap. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because I remember I was just asking that, I was just like, what happened with like the leather thing? Because that was how I first think of, like, I mean, I was already following you on social stuff from the personal side, and then we kind of like
mhm.
transitioned more to this way. That makes a lot of sense. That would not be conducive to a napping child.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I tried it for a while. I still have all my stuff and I love doing it for fun, but maybe we'll tie that in later on in life.
yeah,
We'll
oh,
see.
it's fantastic. And then so you segue into, I know we are just chatting before about this was, so you're in ag, and then you're kind of trying to like stay in ag, but it is difficult managing that, just like for the time constraints, or not to make that the focus of the thing, but to have something that's a little bit more flexible within that. And I think it's
Mhm.
something that we learned a lot over the last few years here, is like that flexibility and time is really important to folks, and they're willing to take the risk now to gain that flexibility and to do their own thing. And obviously you've figured a way to master that within, being, we'll call it home CEO and managing your company. You have to do the mix of everything. I don't know, it's my term for it. I used to say all the time, because it's a big responsibility. People, I think, overlook that. Not all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Well, and that's what we figured. And not everybody can do it, right? Like, it's a big job being home and being the main caregiver for your kids. So it was
totally.
either somebody else raise them or we raise them. So I decided I wanted to. And it's given me such a flexible lifestyle, like I said. And I am a restless person, so I get bored easy and I like to stay busy.
Yep.
So, of course, I picked up something else that has led into Amy Rae Maker. And yeah, I started out just, I guess, crafting and while the kids napped, doing something. Um, and I started making cards, and then it kind of blew up with a market that I had. I just said, I can sell this. Why not? Right. So I started doing that, and then I actually got a really cool opportunity to join a program, I guess, through Manitoba Hubs. So it's like a women entrepreneurial support company.
Amazing.
Pretty neat. Yeah. So I went into this course, I think it was 2021, it would have been.
Yeah.
And it was all on Zoom. So we met, it was for a month and a bit. And it was just a bunch of different leaders within business. So we had every week was a different category. So it was like how to brand your business, how to market, how to, style photos and take pictures of your products, and then how to figure out who your ideal customer is. So it was kind of an intro to the whole business side of it.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was really neat. So since then, I've kind of just thought, what, this is actually happening and something coming out of it. So right now, I guess I can explain what I do completely.
Hold on, wait. I got a question though. Like this
Yes.
program sounds like amazing. We definitely did not chat about this before, but like, so what was the stuff that you guys like went through on this program or like this hub? I guess, are you still part of it today? Was it a limited time type of thing? How
It's
did that come
still
to
like
be?
the hub is still running, so
Yeah.
they've got coaches, and then like they do a bunch of different programs throughout the year, all for women, rural women in Manitoba. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, and then in Dauphin they actually opened up like an actual physical location, so it was like a co-working space. You can go in and meet. You can go in and rent an office. They had a packing lab where you can go and like pack your orders. They had all these different tools that you can use, and then that closed last year just because they're expanding on their program side, and they didn't have anybody to run the actual physical spot. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we had, I think there's a group of like 10 of us on there, and then every week they had different people come in and talk about I think one was maybe like social media and how to market yourself on social media, and then how to style proper photos so that you can, add them to your website or your social media pages. What else was there? Branding yourself. Yeah, it was super cool. I like the whole business side of it. I had no idea what could actually come of this, which was really cool.
And then like fast forward to like today's snapshot of that, like what did that course like? Where'd that like carry you on a trajectory there? Like where are things at today, just to speed this up, or like to have a snapshot of that now? Like it sounds like you're in like multiple stores and you're making this stuff like pretty consistently. Like there's a lot of momentum behind you.
Yeah, now I'm a legit business now, which is super cool.
I love
Hard to say
it.
that sometimes because you're like, what? I am, but I am.
Yeah, the imposter
Um,
side of it, right? That you're kind of like, oh, like,
totally.
am I doing this right? Or I
Yeah,
don't even know if that's the right like verbiage for it, but I feel that sometimes with all my stuff too. You're like, oh yeah,
it
am I doing
is.
this thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it creeps in a lot, but no,
yeah,
it's pretty sweet. And I think just changing your mindset and treating yourself like your business really makes a difference too. But yeah, so now I have a home business here, and I'm a watercolor slash digital artist. So I use all of my art to create stationery products. So mainly greeting cards. I also do calendars, notebooks, notepads, anything stationery. I've got a little bit of clothing that I get my art put on. So everything that my art, and I create products with it. And that has been formed into Amy Rae Maker. So
that is so cool. So
mhm.
you're creating this art, you're slapping it on everything, well, not everything, a lot of stationary stuff, and then like a little bit of like clothing and stuff. Because I just came from, I spent some time in Florida this winter, and I was at a location where we were specifically just like like overshare, but I've seen this like really take off. Basically, we went to this one like shop, and it was a bunch of like like books, kind of like this, and just like phone covers, all this stuff with like the same kind of print on there. I'm gonna call it like nothing really like that earth shattering. It was like the image of like waves and sand and stuff. This
Yeah.
person priorly was I think they were a cop in the States, and then they moved to Florida, open the shop up, and it's like they're like big. Like people order their stuff like across the states, like it's just like taken off, and I'm like, it's certainly possible, and I think you got to go in like to like, I don't know, I saw this thing, and I'm like, oh, like they can't make that much. And then I get chatting with like the people, they're like, oh no, this business is like huge, and I'm like, wait, what? And it's always surprising to me. I don't mean like doubt anyone, but like after
No.
seeing there's just like beach stuff, and I've seen parts of your work before, and I'm excited to see more from you come out. But it's always like surprising to like know that like like I said, not to knock anything, but you have like these like patterns and these artists, but it's also very catchy because then once I went in there and saw like more and like walked through this whole store, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what, like I could use one of those things. Like you're just like, then you start gravitating towards it. You're like, oh, that fits like my genre of styling in my house. And in this case, it was all like beach stuff, right? Because it's on
Yeah.
kind of like an island area there, and it's all very fitting, very on brand for the area. And I'm sure your stuff has like a great fit. Like, who would be a customer for you on like your stuff? Like before, I could see the leather stuff being certain genres, but now where's that evolved to today? Like for who's buying your products?
Um, I think it's really cool, and just to like go back to like
Yeah,
not
sorry, I
little
jumped.
it for sure. 'Cause I say that too. I'm like, how am I making this possible? I don't understand.
Well, but
And
you're
it
doing
does,
it.
and the internet has definitely helped. And then there was bad things that came out of COVID, but there were some really great things too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's really cool. And now that like when you're within these worlds, right? You know, you have your egg world, you have your every world has its own thing. So this like stationary world, I guess you want to call it, is huge.
Yeah.
Like there's huge markets in the States and in Canada that people will go, and it's actually just a big, huge expo for cards and for stationery. And everywhere you look has a pattern or something on it, and that's an artist that created it, you know, and it's either licensed out or it's created by them. So it's just neat when you're not in this world, you don't think about it. But like you said, like you're walking around, you're like, huh, you know what, that is a pattern. Someone had to draw it, right? So
Totally.
it's pretty cool. And I follow along a few like people that I admire and a few businesses that I admire. And it's just neat to see like just that opportunity that they got, and then all of a sudden it blew up and now they're like everywhere. So
Totally.
the options and the opportunity is really endless, which I think is cool.
Yeah. What's been the biggest like growth spurt, or like, I mean, you always remember like your first like couple sales, and I'm sure that was more related to like the leatherworks at the time, but when you started to see things like take off, like what was that moment for you? Was it getting in a, you tell, never mind, you tell it the way that you see it, I'm not going to assume things. What was that moment for you?
Oh, let me think. I think the biggest, most exciting moment. Well, my first market was really cool, and it was super small, but it was also like, whoa, people are actually buying like the things that I'm making. That was really cool. Another really cool part was actually getting them printed. Like I don't create every card myself. I create the design and I create the whole thing, but I get them printed in bulk right in town at the print shop here. So when I figured out that that's a thing and I can actually do that, I was like, man, now I can do everything, right? And I can put my stuff on anything. So
Totally.
that was another cool moment. And then when I got into my first shop, that was really cool because I have a wholesale side to the business as well. So if businesses like small coffee shops, I've got anywhere from Pine Ridge Hollow in like Birdsville Park, they carry my stuff there.
You're
At
in the
one of
fancy area. Nice.
you asked me
That's
what
a
my ideal
great spot.
customer is.
No, totally. That would be, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I actually haven't
Yeah.
read it out there yet, but that's like everything you see online. I'm like, this is like the Instagrammable. Then, you know, a lot of people that are shopping there would be perfect for that genre. So I'm sure you do very well. And
Yeah, it's lots of fun there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so things like that, just those little things that, you know, someone appreciates what you've created. Those are the big wins, I think, in the big moments that are like, holy smokes, this is actually going somewhere. And then when someone looks back, and I know Kevin, my husband, he does that a lot, and he's like, Amy, like this, I still can't believe this is a thing. And then he sits down and he's like, look at this. You've like, you know, within your radius of customers, you've whatever doubled in the last year or whatever you've done. And it's like, yeah, you know what? I have. It's cool. So
That is so awesome.
it's neat. But ideal customer, it kind of ranges from, you know, you have those older crowd that, you know, always give cards and, you know, the grandparents type thing, and they like that. But then you also have younger ones who just appreciate the art behind it. I have a lot of people that say, oh, I got your cards and actually put them in frames and I have them in my house. So I think that's kind of cool. Yeah. But definitely, looking to gift something or things like that.
And have like, very gift. What about, I know that I've heard this before from other discussions and meetings I've been with folks that are like more on the art side of things. And it's like some folks have a tough time like selling it. Did you feel any way about like selling it initially, like getting it out there, or was it easy to do that? I've just heard, if that makes sense, then you might have see your face. I feel like you're reading it, like you do get what I'm saying though. Like some people are
Yeah.
like, that's kind of tough to sell because it's like, goodbye. Is someone else going to appreciate this art the same way? I don't know if that's the correct, description of that, but I've heard it said a couple times from folks I know that do like art.
Like it's hard to part with it type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be. I know one of my most like popular designs is a bison, and you'll see it on like 10 different products, and that's what I have on my new hoodies. The bison print. And I actually sold the original piece, and it sold within like, I was supposed to sell it at a market, and I just advertised like, I got it framed and it's selling. And someone's like, I want that, and I want it now, and I don't care what it costs. And I was like, oh, but I don't know if I want to sell it.
Yeah. Okay, so what happened there? Like,
and it went to a good person, and I was like, oh, good, they're gonna love it. But yeah, it is a different feeling to sell the original pieces. I love selling, the prints because everything's like just a print of it and designed or patterned, which is cool too because people love it, and it's fun to see what people like kind of gear towards, which I think is cool. But it is hard to part with the original piece for sure. Yeah. It's like a little baby that you go like, I don't know, it's brought me so much. I don't know if I want to, even though probably in the drawer here, but someone else is going to appreciate it.
Right. It'll live on someone's wall and they'll see it every day and think like, oh, this is so amazing. But you get caught with that. Like, okay, so it is just something like feeling of like, hey, it's like you're giving up that because you remember the moment of like creating it. I think that's probably like the bigger piece. I mean, I'm sure you see that like all your stuff when you look back to like the original, you're like, oh, like this is what, replicas are one thing, but it's an OG.
Yeah. It's pretty sweet. And then to see the progress from like, when I first started to now, like I only have so much time in a day with kids and farm and everyday life, but getting to paint is lucky if I can get there, I guess, every day. Really a lot of my pieces are honestly like fluke. It's like I sit down to do something, I'm like, oh, that worked out. Awesome. We're gonna roll with this. So I am looking forward to be able to have more time in the future to create like more original pieces or maybe some canvas pieces that I can sell and add on. But again, the options with art are super endless, which is so cool.
That's super awesome. So now it's like, the time struggle for you is more making that time to create this stuff, but you've figured out some efficiencies to sell like bigger volumes. Like you said, like you got the wholesale side, then you have. So do you still do markets and stuff then, like yourself? Do you attend a lot of those?
Yeah, I really like doing them. Actually, I did. I try to get to do a couple more bigger ones, and it's such another world too because you have to kind of plan them at the beginning of the year because you got to apply, and it's like an application. Like you got to send, your resume basically and photos of what your booth is going to look like, and it has to have a vibe. And
I know, yeah.
And it's like any business expo too, right? It's all the same. It's just the maker market side of it. So, I did Scattered Seeds in Winnipeg last fall. That was a big one. And then I actually did one in Saskatoon just in February, March, one of those months. And I think Third and Bird might be on the list for another one. I'm going to attempt. I'm doing Third and Bird at Clear Lake this summer.
Okay.
But those are really fun to do. And I really like doing them because you meet so many cool people, not just customers, but you meet other vendors and other companies. Totally. And I've grown such a cool community, which is awesome for living rural Manitoba, where I don't have a lot of, ability to see people all the time other than in my own community. But it's such a cool world that I've created. Like I've created friendships that I never thought I would outside of university, right? Because university, you get to, but it's really cool. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
And I'm sure you learn some of that too when you go to
Definitely. No. I mean, I was just thinking I've attended like trade shows for years in like the ag side of my life, and then kind of transitioning more into own ventures, whatever way we want to get in the weeds on that one. But it's like trade shows are awesome. I think like for that mingling of industry, because there's usually, from experience anyways, there's like one night at the trade show where you get the opportunity to network, where there's like some kind of socialization that happens either way, early in the morning or at night after the show. I really appreciated that. I know that it's also like a really good like data collection. I've always like run that. I don't know if that's something that like you integrated in there too, but it's like, you do the draw. I don't know if enough people like appreciate that the values and, you know, like the follow up with the customers. And I was gonna like, I'll weave this back in talking about processes and what you do, but there's like, you know, if you collect on a draw there, from the people side of things, great, they get to win something. From the business side, you know, you're getting data from them to follow up with them, so it's great to touch base afterwards, because if someone doesn't transact with you there, or they were meaning to follow up, you know, hopefully they grab a card, but the follow up is where the money is. And so you create databases at those events if you have a good draw. That's like, I think, the bigger ticket that folks want to do. And I was just thinking, I wrote down two things here: one, processes, and then the other one was like ROI. Because I know when I've gone to like trade shows too, it's like it's tough to like bite that off, because you got to sell enough to break, you know, at least break even, hopefully, because then there's hopefully more that comes from that, which is always good, along with the network. But, you know, how did you manage that initially? Like, what did you guys like write out, or was it just kind of like, hey, I want to go there and do this thing? What did that plan look like leading up to a show? Because you're right, you have to commit early, or you got to get lucky. I kind of got lucky a couple of times, just being like, hey, you got an extra spot, like kind of thing or whatever, with people, and they're like, oh yeah, someone pulled out, or, you know, whatever, you're able to come in. And so there's less process involved.
Yeah, it's a whole nother side of the business, really. And then, yeah, you got to budget for it. Like, they're not cheap. These big ones, they're a lot of money. So and then you got to stock all your inventory, and you got to get everything ready. And I kind of pick and choose. I think I kind of did a little too much last fall, but fourth quarter, like October to December, is like where it's at for any product-based business. Like, you want to be everywhere. And I think I was just too many places, and then I didn't realize that, oh, my kids are going to be sick for a month. So
I didn't realize. Yeah, you got to account for kid flu season.
It's also a busy season on the farm. Like, Kevin is busy work and farm. So yeah, there was a lot that I kind of bit off too much there. But I kind of go about it picking, maybe I'll try to do one big one every quarter, and then I do the smaller ones around here. We have some really good ones around here. We have a greenhouse. So in October, we are just allowed to set up whenever we're around, and those ones are super awesome. The community here is super supportive. But I do like to venture out and try a couple. I plan them around, you know, I have a place to stay, so then it takes down some of the cost, because because hotel fees, and then, you know, gas, and I have a small car, so I have to make sure my whole setup fits in my tiny little car, which actually I am this week making some new displays that are going to fit in my car, but everything's collapsible and everything folds and everything fits. But yeah, it's a big process. So yeah, I try to do one big one every quarter if I can. And then I'm going to continue trying to do some out of province ones just to see. And
for sure,
it's really good to have those, because the wholesale side of it, right? Like, you can offer that to people, and you have, I mean, there's trade shows for that. You can go in Ontario or Toronto has like a huge stationery show where businesses will come and shop for product. So that's on the bucket list.
Okay, I love that energy around that, because after like being away, and then I mean, I used to travel lots, but then kind of COVID, you got kind of like locked down in your own house. I wish I would have started this then, because it would have been something more to do and chat about, and frankly, but you know, you start doing the numbers on that. I think that's such a neat thing for people to hear as we like dive in with other conversations too. But you know, how many people live in Dauphin right now? No, you don't have to be perfect on this one, but it's 8,000. Okay. And so, you know, purchasing folks, maybe half of them are younger, maybe the portion of that population is aged out too, in terms of like probably not going to come and like seek you out. So there's a limited number of folks that are going to use your products to, you know, give to cards to maybe their kids or their grandparents or other folks. So there's like a limited number of folks there to realize like the selling opportunity is only so much. So then it is definitely good to go like travel and expand, or just have like realistic expectations, like, you know, around that for companies in general. This isn't to point out anything which way there, but you mentioned going like Saskatchewan there, they are really good at, I think, drawing folks in. I mean, you see their following with their football team. And I remember I worked out there for a minute when I was in Ag, and it's like people will drive like 3 hours to like go watch a game. Not the same vibe in Winnipeg with the Bombers, but like, you know, you see what they've done there, and they'll drive to markets and stuff. I feel like the same way, and they got a big population, but it's more spread out. Right. So you're hitting way more people.
Yeah, I was completely blown away by the support that market had in Saskatoon. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. I think there was like 12,000 people that came through the door. I think it was insane. I thought
I love it.
Scattered Seas was busy, but this was busy, which is
Yeah.
awesome. And Manitoba's gotten better, for the whole
Oh no, for
support
sure.
local and everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's neat to see what other provinces are doing. And at these shows too, there's people from Ontario that come out, and she's like, "Yeah, I made the 8-hour trip from Thunder Bay, and we came out. We set up for the weekend." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's such a huge!" But it's business, and that's
Yeah, you
how
have
you
to.
spread the word, right? You can't just sit
Yep.
around and not. So it's neat, and it's
Totally.
fun. I find it so fun.
Yeah. No, I love them too. I always get energy from that. I feel like we're both like
Yes.
extroverts in that fashion of like going out and then like I love that. And then afterwards you're kind of tired though too. Like you go to like set up like maybe we'll talk about emails or whatever, but there's like um yeah, it's like a high. Like I love being at those things. It's like you're being social. You're having conversations, you're learning from people, why are they buying? Why are they maybe not buying? If someone's so
Yeah.
willing to tell you, they're like, "Yeah, I like it, but I wish it was like a shade lighter." It's so funny why people like don't buy things or whatever. And you're like, try not to take it too personally, but you're like, oh, shit, I wish I would have done that. But you can't make one for everyone either, right? You got to
Well, it's
focus
like
on,
free reviews, You're at these things
yeah,
and people are literally coming up. They're like, "Oh, I like this, but I would have wanted to have it, in this style or as an anniversary card." And I'm like, I never
totally,
even thought of an anniversary card, or I never even thought of making one. But then 6 people asked me for it. So it's
totally.
good, marketing and reviews and product creation content. I don't know what the word would be.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, it's good to have like that content from the show too, right? If you can film yourself and have the event going live there, the appearance online, I mean, regardless of how that show goes, you went and did something. People love to see activity like that, right? It's either education, entertainment, or like
Yeah.
the vibe is what people are really liking. I'm sure that they
Mhm.
chat about that on some of the stuff. Like people see that and they're more attracted to your business if you're posting that online too. Probably get more likes on like some of that stuff, right? You're like, hey, selfie or whatever it is.
Well,
You're like you're at the booth.
yeah. And then like as leading up to the market too, like the people that are putting on the market, they're
Yes,
advertising for you. So
they're humping
it's
it up.
not just
Yeah,
the cost, and you're not like, "Oh, I have to make," and even if you don't make back what you put into it, like there's a cost to marketing. So treat it as that,
totally.
right?
Yeah,
But oh, I think you muted yourself.
sure did. Sure did. Mid. Nothing like doing that. I touch the earpiece and that happens once in a while. But jeez. And but then so you go to the show and you're totally right about that. It's not even specifically like an ROI in terms of that. There's more to that ROI. It's like the
Oh yeah.
network, the other marketing piece that comes along, because you got to be in front of people, and it's like a good marketing thing will say like it can take 8 times to close the sale on people, right? So they
Mhm.
got to see it a few times, whether that be in the egg stuff. They got to see it or hear it from their neighbor, a billboard, and a sales rep, a
Oh
few
yeah.
times each to close that deal. It's the same thing for you there, and then it's
Mhm.
you're expanding that after show though process, like follow up. People probably are, like I painted the picture of doing like a draw. I don't know if you actually do those there or not, but like, are you collecting data there? How are you growing your following for social media? Do you do email campaigns? What is that? What's the process look like for you there for your business?
Yeah, so it started out on Instagram, and it's been awesome because Instagram blew up over, small businesses blew up over COVID. So it not
Totally.
necessarily happened because of COVID. My business kind of happened just at COVID because that's the stage of my life I was in. And it was
I
perfect.
love it.
But yeah, I think social media is the main, location, but I've moved into email because like we've talked before, like you just don't own social media. And if you lose that, you lose all of it.
Yeah,
And coming to
totally.
realize like followers are great, but followers aren't necessarily customers. So, it's fine to have a lot of followers, but I don't think that's a big goal. I think the connections that you make with your customers and with other businesses, like we've through the hub, I guess is a good example. I've created a nice little network of businesses there, and it's fun to watch everybody grow, and we all can kind of pick each other's brains. So we call us like business besties kind of thing,
I
where
love
we
that.
just like feed off each other and ask questions. So you always have that support. And then, yeah, I'm kind of going off on a totally another
No,
tangent.
no, no. This is
That's
perfect.
okay.
This is the whole idea. We go on tangents. That's is like you can only plan the first couple, and we just have a conversation. But you told me, have you ever been part of other like business networking groups and or anything like that ever,
Yeah, hang
or
on.
tried them
Come
out?
on.
That's okay. Like I'll insert here for a sec while you're sipping water. It's like I did like the BNI thing for a while with one of my companies, but now I'm just touching kind of too many things, and it's like it's tough to just pitch like one thing in there. Ironically, some of those folks are going to be jumping on the podcast too, but it's like it's like a referral program where there's some accountability in there, and I think sometimes like it's great that you're part of the hub. I think that's the right word there, but because you need the people around you to help you, because otherwise you get on an island a little bit. I find myself being like sometimes, and then you have like one conversation with one, like I went last night for we'll call it a business meeting afterwards. It was just like a couple beers and a chat, and it's like we both solved each other's problems within like 5 minutes. Like it was like whatever was going on in our own little noggins here, coconuts, and we're like, well, that was an easy answer, you know?
Yeah, you really get caught up in just being on your own and thinking, you know, it's something so difficult. But that's where, the hub has been really awesome. And I've got a couple really good friends through it that it's like, hey, I need a brain dump. She's like, hit me, you know? So we just take 20 minutes and brain dump on each other's businesses. And then it's just an outside view, which is super awesome.
Yeah.
But I actually joined a group they're based out of Alberta, because I think a business coach would be cool to have maybe in the future. I feel like that's something the business needs, but I don't think I'm ready for it now, because I need to figure out how to manage life and business. But my kids are still young, so there's lots of time. So that's a goal for maybe 5 years down the road. But I wanted a community, because sometimes it's hard here. I've got my little group of friends and group of businesses here, but even just talking to some of my friends, I can't relate. So it's like, I want to relate to these people, and I want to have somebody that I can, somebody going through the same thing. And it's interesting because my friends are so supportive, and my husband is so supportive. Like, Kevin's awesome, but he's just he has a different mind than I do. So I wanted someone who has the same mindset. So I joined this group called the Trailblazer Company.
Okay.
And it's a rural women company or business, just like a support group. They have a magazine that goes out quarterly, and then we have an insider group. So it's like a subscription thing. And we meet over Zoom. So it's women all across Canada. I think some are from the States too. And it's all rural women who have either, moved to the country, have farm with their husbands or families, or are stay-at-home moms. But everyone has a business. Everyone has created a business, and we're in this group. And there's a really cool thing that we do. It's a hot hive. So you bring a problem or an issue that you're dealing with, and you just like throw it at the group, and then you shut off your camera and your microphone, and everyone else just discuss this. Like, they discuss your issue basically. So you get like 6 business coaches all in one. So it's super neat. Yeah. I would recommend trying it, because it's
a hot cool. Hive. No, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so I've never, like, it kind of like through some other like things I've gone through, whatever, like it kind of because it kind of happens, but that's very specific in terms of like you just throw it out there, and then you're kind of, I guess, like taking notes, like Steve here, I'm just writing down, like that is like a thing. I have a funny story to share on here. I was just talking about it with the person that called me about this, but kind of in and out of like Winnipeg stuff, and feeling out like even like other like cities for networking events. Like when I have been recently traveling and doing some like consulting on marketing stuff, it's been interesting to go and just see how this stuff's done, and then like kind of bring that back or whatever. But this is a random story on our discussion, but it's come back to the women's thing. There's so some people had seen me working in like startup space enough, and they are investors, and they're like, hey Steve, who would you recommend we chat with? We want to dump some money in like some like startups from like the venture capital side or angel investor. Kind of, I don't know what the right verbiage is even, but basically I'm like the glue for a lot of these convos are starting to be, and I'm like, I don't know enough about this. I've been pitching, like asking for money before to investors, but I should really probably know more about this. So I'm online on LinkedIn the other day, or a couple weeks ago, and I see this thing it happened to be from North Forge, and I didn't read, I skimmed. I was like, okay, cool. This is like a training for investor thing. I did not read that it was a women's thing. So I signed up for this thing. And this lady was like super nice enough putting on the event. She like calls me. She's like, hey Steve, like, actually, oddly enough, she's from Hartney. She's from Southwest Manitoba. So we got talking about ag before we even got into it. But I was like, hey, what's going on? I saw you, like, you're emailing me or whatever. Like, did I sign up wrong or whatever? And she's like, yeah, no, like it's fine, but like it's actually more like women's event only. So like when we have other stuff, you should come, but maybe not to this one. And I laughed. I was like, well, I really want to learn this stuff, but you know, it's unfortunate I signed up for the wrong kind of date or whatever that way.
Awesome.
So we had a good laugh about that. I would have been, yeah, I mean, whatever. I would have fit in. I would have found a way to learn something from it, but I think it's good to have both because there's different energies in terms of like,
Yes.
whatever, a mixed room, female energy, male energy. It is a little bit different. There's different levels within that. And it's, I don't know, it's just an obvious thing. I think in many cases, it's the unspoken stuff, the subconscious, either like body language or energy around business and how you organize stuff too is very different. I learned, well, yeah, just as much was from like the male mentality when chatting about stuff as I do from females discussing about how they organize stuff. And I'm like, wow, that is such a better idea than the way that I was doing it. But you won't get it from like your buddies or, you know, guys talking about stuff.
Yeah, there's some days I wonder if some things I'm better at, I guess, but sometimes it's nice to have a man's point of view on things as well. I love the woman side of it. I do.
Yeah.
But I'm used to working with men. Like I came from an ag background and I enjoy working with men too. Like I like that side of it. So that's what I like about the markets because it's, you know, women and men running these businesses and stuff. So, but this particular group was really nice just because it's rural women, you know, or women that are working on farms or, you know, working with their hands every day and kind of thing. So that was a side of it that I can relate to, which I thought was super cool. But yeah, it's a neat group. And it's just cool that things are out there, right?
Yeah. How did you find them? How did they come to be?
Found them. I want to say through Instagram.
social media, like free marketing as long as you're using it. Yeah.
I came across their page, I guess, and then I saw that they had this magazine. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I ordered a magazine and then I thought it was awesome. And then they said, yeah, we have this like insider group. And I've only been in it for a few months, but I've already built like wicked connections. And I even have some of my stuff in one of the girls' shops already. So it's like,
oh, that's amazing.
It's pretty cool that, it's just blown up. Really
cool. How does that one work? Is there like a cost to join the group? What's the commitment for you there?
A monthly subscription. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
that makes sense. A lot of those things are like
you get there's a couple different hive meeting group kind of things, and then there's a master class once a month as well. Yeah, so they bring in an expert or somebody, and then it's a topic, and then we get this free master class. So which is awesome too. Yeah.
What's the master like? It's like a different master class. I guess obviously, like they go through different topics for you, and then
so they had the ones that there was a time management one. So it was a coach lady that brought in, and she's like, and she bases or she kind of works with women in agriculture too, which is awesome. So how to time manage and all that. We had another person. She was the founder of a clothing company in Canada, and she came in and just talked about all the ups and downs and everything. So yeah, it totally changes every month, and it's so cool. I think it's awesome.
I think that's sweet too. Kind of I've bounced around a little bit, just trying to find like the right network thing that fits best. But everyone has like a benefit to it. Maybe there'll be one that I go back to. I know like when I had been in like BNI, that was great. It was very we'll call it like type A, funny on the brand piece for my side of things, but very analytical, and I like that to see like the results of like a referral program. If you ever like see that, it is a neat thing to go to. It is pretty like regimented. Like there's a bit of a schedule on that meeting. If you ever go to one, it's kind of like the intro, and then you run through your stats, and then everyone gets 60 seconds to pitch. They're same like business, but maybe like what's up and coming with them. There's once a week meeting, so it's a bit of a time commitment. There's a cost to it, but I feel like there is a huge upside to it. I think maybe like I said with the stuff I'm doing, it's maybe not the best fit for like I don't know, multiple industry stuff. But if you have like a focus, like one, you know, kind of like industry thing, whether it be like real estate, insurance, some of those like staples in there for Manitoba, but you can also network internationally. You can go and attend other events when they have them and stuff too. Plug for BNI that I'm not getting paid for, but like it's pretty neat that way. But there's lots of other things that you don't find out until you're kind of like in there and putting yourself out there as far as that. And it's interesting to hear like you probably found that through social media though, and that was like you're in to do that, because I know some social media everyone's like, oh, I don't spend that much time on there, but there's some great connections on there from just following accounts. You get kind of your suggested for you page all of a sudden is like populating with like great stuff because you're starting like through the business account, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
pretty
cool.
cool, the connections. I think that's one of the main things that's just blown my mind, how many connections you can make in just like your little community that you can build within your
Yeah.
business or your field or whatever it is, right? Like it's very cool.
Yeah. What kind? We didn't talk about this. This might be putting you on a unsure response here. We talked about like email, social media, and stuff. Are you using any CRM tools to help you like your email? Like, is it like Mailchimp or anything like that that you're utilizing today that could be helpful for other people? Or what's your opinion on that kind of stuff? Do you use anything like that today?
Yeah, I use MailerLite for my email marketing. It just
Okay.
depends what you want to do. Depends how far in you want to take it. You want to
Yeah.
get all the paid ones and everything. And I think maybe I will because every time I go to write an email, I'm cheap sometimes. I just did the free version, but it's like, oh no, I got to recreate my whole layout,
Oh my gosh.
the layout. And yeah, so I'd recommend that. I think too, website, even if it's just a homepage, just to describe who you are, have a thing. You don't have to be selling, but I have an e-commerce website. So I lucked out and I actually did get a grant over COVID. There was lots of money and I kind of was
Yeah.
able to sneak in there and get a grant. So I did get a grant to promote myself online a little bit more. And I used
Awesome.
it to create a website. So now, again, it's just another time commitment. And I just have a managed account, so which I would never go back because I don't know how people create their own websites and keep it up and deal with all of the background work that comes
Yeah.
to it. I don't know.
I'm one of those schmucks over here managing the website, but that is like a really good thing like to note is like,
Yeah.
I think the first one that I did took me like 2 months to put together, but now it's
Yeah.
like, if you know everything that you want to do, if you have the control over like the brand and everything, for me now, whatever about me, but like literally you can do it in like 2 hours once you know what's going on. But they change one thing on the back end and you're like, okay, this is a whole new learning. Because like I have a few Square accounts and then now I have like a Shopify account or like online store and stuff. And those ones are like, they're very different. But it's kind of like having an iPhone and a Samsung in your same hand because it's like same concept. They're both smartphones, but the design is different. Do you use Canva at all for your stuff, for your designing, like any of the marketing stuff? Do you use or a tool like that at all to get out?
Canva is like one of the main things I use. And then I have Photoshop as well, which again is a whole new learning curve. But if I want to do more of the surface pattern design with my art, which is second half, I've broken my year into two. So this first half of my year is, wholesale, make those cold calls, get in with other businesses. Second half is focus on surface pattern design. So it's just another passive income project, I guess, for future Amy Rae Maker to just hopefully get working on creating some patterns, and then they'll just keep going. Create them once, they keep working. So I use Photoshop for that. But again, it's another learning curve.
I was gonna, well, we'll go to like asking how to get a hold of you in a second, but what you just described there to me really resonates around like, and I'm making this assumption, but kind of what you just described there for your business plan, I relate back to like how people manage like in farming, and you kind of broke it into your into your quarters of like, hey, like this is what we're doing here. Then I'm gonna go attack here, and then we're gonna. That's how I just heard you say that, and I'm like, that's so smart because I think people think that they got to do everything all the time, and sometimes it's like, hey, let's go heavy content create, and then go to market with like this stuff. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's like I look at now like the rental biz that I want to pick here later on. It's like it's so much easier to communicate what we do after having all this like photos and videos and stuff. Now it's like they're coming in. It's not, we're not like shoving it down people anymore. Like, hey, like we rent kayaks or whatever, right? It's like, hey, like they're like, oh, hey, great visual. I understand what you do. I understand the product or the service in that sense or whatever. But yeah, that's just like really cool. I just picked up that vibe there. It was like, hey, there's a seeding, there's a growth, and there's a harvest to your business. That's what I just heard you say. I don't know if that's where you've ever thought about that, but that's what I just heard you say.
I like it. I never thought of it that way, but I like it. And that takes so much time, right? Like, and that's where, I'm still in the startup of my business. I'm, year 3 or whatever it is. So it takes a lot of time, and eventually, hopefully I'll be able to hire that portion of it out. That's the goal, right? Grow and hire, and I can be the creator behind it all. So yeah, it's a lot of time, but the passion for it as an entrepreneur, I think, you're going to make it work.
Yeah.
And you would agree.
I think so too. Yeah, well, totally. Well, I think you got to be
following you from the beginning.
You got to be a little crazy to pursue something like that, but you also got to like love it enough to keep going,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it's not always about like and people don't, I mean, I've heard some comedians make fun of this or whatever. It's truly not about like the money, like all the money. Cause like once you are really good at whatever your craft, and I mean, in this case, it's very pun intended, but, or unintentionally there, but like your craft or your art, whatever that is, you get good at it. The example of me just like referencing there, like even making the website quicker for some of the marketing clients that I do on like the side and stuff. It's like, that's so streamlined now. Like it's such like an easy thing to do, but for other people it would take like quite some time. And so whether it be sharing knowledge to folks, or you figure out something in your business that's better and then you fill it in with other folks for hire, on like a term position, maybe to start, you feel that out. Can they go do sales and trade shows for me? What do I need to do to make this like run smoothly? That's a great stage to be at.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool in-between stage, right? Like I'm prepping for growth. That's what I like to call it. not like the big boom yet, but it's a preparation for it. So
yeah.
it's kind of
Well,
cool.
just like the farm too, like you prep all season, you're gonna have ups and downs in weather, whatever you want to call it. But then like harvest is when the money's made. So whether that be in like your fourth quarter is kind of what I heard you say there, is like that is like that's before holiday season, should like we'll call it there, and that's when a lot of folks are purchasing. Kids are back in school, there's birthdays, there's everything, everyone's back to a routine, versus like summer in Canada is usually go to the lake or go travel. You usually have some downtime, especially for families, right? Kids out of school, or maybe they're not even in school yet, so you gotta manage that as the home CEO there, right? So but you got that, so then you're prepping for that, and then you start all over again on the calendar, right? And you're back to creating and doing that. So
do it all.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's coming up for you? Let's talk about that for a sec. Like, what is there a market coming up that people can find you at? I mean, we're recording here in April. We'll plan to have this live hopefully in May here from the podcast side of things. So I don't know if this is going to be super useful for getting that word out if it's something immediate, but let's try to paint that picture. If people are going to find you, where are they going to find you at?
Well, actually, I'm on June 10th. I'm going to be at Lily Stone Gardens. It's in Rosenorth.
Okay.
Doing a market there. What else did I apply for? I'm at Third and Bird at Clear Lake. That's August 5th and 6th weekend. Amazing. And then I plan to be back in Saskatoon for their fall market there. And I know this isn't going to be relevant for when this is posted, but I am opening a pop-up shop next week, which I'm excited about.
Awesome.
It's in Dauphin here. I gotta set up a little store for 2 weeks just for fun. So a friend of mine has a rental spot, so I snagged it for 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm gonna try that out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I mean, you got to try different stuff though too, right? Because just because one thing didn't work, or the first time didn't even work, but maybe it's just like sticking with it the long play. Like when people do know to come and find you, I'm sure that won't be the last time that you end up doing or do that. I've seen your pursuit already while we're chatting about here. So if it's not relevant when this gets launched, maybe it'll be relevant later on. And if folks, listener, people out there can't find you at those spots, where can they find you online or on online store and stuff? What's the website? What are the handles here? And I'll include it in the bio for when we do post this, but just verbally, let's run through that real quick. How do people find you?
The day-to-day life, if you want to watch me talk, see my kids, see my chickens, everything else, we're going to have some bottle-fed calves soon, I'm sure. You go to Instagram. It's amyrae.maker. And the website, if you want to purchase anything, it's www.amyraemaker.com. And yeah, I just got the buys and hoodies on there actually the other day. So
cool.
Check them out.
Awesome. So we got Instagram, we got website, anywhere else that people can see you? Where the focus is?
Amy Rae Maker, but I don't do much
Instagram.
On so Instagram, and if you want to sign up for my emails, you can do that either through the website or message me on Instagram. Yeah, that's awesome. The main points there.
Fantastic, Amy. Thank you so much for joining the A podcast here today with me, Steve Maxted, your host, and look forward to seeing you at markets. Maybe we'll even overlap. I don't have those in the calendar yet, but I mean, whether it be an attendee or in otherwise, thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll chat more with you soon.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you.
Bye for now.
See ya.